thinking society equates success with productivity, status, and financial gain. But at what cost? This relentless drive can lead to anxiety, disconnection, and burnout, to name but a few, all of which disrupt our vital force. To all of you tuning in, hello from Bexhill-on-Sea in the south of England. Today I'm joined by homeopath Victor Cirone, who's joining us from Canada, Manitoulin Island to be precise. And today we're going to be talking about success through the lens of homeopathy. It's a little bit like a continuation of the last podcast that I put up, which was 12 stories defining success. I'll put the link to that below. Victor, so nice to see you after such a long time.
Nice to see you too. Yeah, so, happy to be back for another installment.
Great to have you.
Ongoing conversation.
Yes, thank you so much for coming back on. And well, let's just get straight to it, because I can always lead viewers who haven't heard your previous talks. I can put the links to those previous talks below if anyone wants to get an idea of homeopathy and how it works. I thought today we'll go straight into success and how homeopathy defines success.
Yeah, okay, good. So the place to start, I think, is to talk about how the idea of success in terms of a treatment in homeopathic terms is very different than even what people come in expecting. Because success in homeopathy, at least initially, is not about the elimination of symptoms, the eradication of symptoms. It's trying to understand at a deeper level what the symptom is an expression of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that is a good place to start, and it will open up a lot of fruitful discussion, I think. But basically, to use a kind of analogy, a symptom is like the messenger who comes delivering bad news. And basically, we don't want to hear the news. We don't want to receive the news. We don't want to enter the door. So the messenger, it's not your normal messenger, who just leaves the parcel at the door and walks away. This is the messenger who is there 24/7, knocking at the door, waking up in the middle of the night, harassing you, because he has a message from the king. Yeah, and the king needs you to receive this message. And if you don't receive it, then trouble's not going to go away. And so what happens is you get frustrated and you shoot the messenger. Yeah. You shoot the messenger, which is basically to say you suppress the symptom.
But then the king is just going to send another messenger, and a stronger one.
Yeah. Isn't that right? Yeah. So the only way to resolve this problem is essentially to receive the message. Yeah. And with a good homeopathic remedy, that's what a person is enabled to do. The organism is able to receive the message. And so what is the message here? It depends on, the individual circumstances, but the main point to start with is that success does not mean the elimination of symptoms, because symptoms can be eliminated, but it doesn't mean that a person is healthier. It doesn't mean that their quality of life has increased. It doesn't mean that they have developed any insight into themselves. So the elimination of symptoms is what people want, and understandably so, because the symptom is obviously something that causes distress. But success in homeopathic terms is not just the elimination of symptoms, because the symptom needs to go away once the reason for the symptom has gone away. It dries up as a consequence of the deeper underlying pattern of disturbance coming into a more harmonious state. And I just wanted to share a passage from a book called The Sensation in Homeopathy, which is by Rajan Sankran, an Indian homeopath who's done a tremendous amount to kind of revolutionize the way that we think in homeopathic terms. And at the beginning of this book, he has a passage that we'll talk about. But basically, he's talking about this deeper level, this deeper experience that we have to try and understand in every case, not just focusing on the level of the symptom, but getting to what he called the delusion. So we have a delusion, for example, that a lion is going to get us. It's not something that is felt simply emotionally or intellectually. Even imagining such an experience brings about the sensation of that impending attack, a sensation which reverberates in the deepest core of our being. Our entire demeanor, our attitude, our nerves and endocrine glands are affected by this sensation. So this is an example. The sensation when you go into it in this particular case is that we're going to be devoured, that a lion is going to get us. Yeah. And it's an unconscious sensation, right? The person might not think of it in these vivid terms, but the feeling is as if, yeah, as if I'm going to be devoured by a lion. And that sensation actually exists on a level that is beyond both mind and body. Yeah. It encapsulates both, but it can't be reduced to either a mental process or a physical process. The mental and the physical processes are both an expression of that vital sensation.
But this
Yeah.
idea.
And all of this.
Oh no, sorry. I was just going to say that this idea of of reacting towards the sensation as if it was a lion coming after one, in mindfulness, like I went to a Vipassana retreat a couple of months ago, and it was very helpful because what it shows or what it teaches is to become curious about the sensation. And so one starts to change this impulse of reacting in such a way. And then when you start to look at the impulse, it actually changes from what the mind thinks that it is.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
something that works with you, with homeopathy?
Yes, it certainly is related. But what I'll say is that it's not just a question of what the mind thinks it is, because it could be, it could be something that is just so unconscious that it's not even at the level of someone being able to bring it up to that level of awareness. Because it's the lens through which everything is already experienced, and you're not even questioning the fact that the lens is there in the first place. There's no possibility or no opportunity that the person has, because that is the basic condition, the basic conditioning of their experience is that. Yeah. And so the what the mind can bring up through contemplative exercises sometimes won't be able to bring a person to that state, because it conditions every capacity to introspect, every capacity to reflect. Even the conditions are basic ability or capacity to take in things from the external world and how we interpret them, how those things feel to us. And there are certainly some situations where it is sufficient that through introspection a person is able to change this basic patterning.
I was thinking more along the lines of stopping, making distance between oneself and the reaction so as to look at it in a different way and then listen to the messenger rather than kill the messenger before the messenger's opened its mouth.
Yes. And that's possible. That's possible. But some people, I would say a lot of people, are not able to do that, because the reaction is so strong that there's not an ability to take that space to be able to then see it. Yeah. And there are different with practice, yeah, perhaps, if we're lucky. Yeah. But even sometimes with a good, you say you have a good remedy for a patient, and it touches on that core delusion. Yeah. And everybody has a core delusion. It's a basic state that we exist in, that colors our experience of the world and the inner workings of our physical body, the way that our mind and thoughts are structured. All of these things is basically, it can be reduced down to that core delusion, which it colors over everything.
Yeah.
But even when a person has a good remedy, it can take time for that to shift and change, because it's so deeply entrenched. And a person can feel better, and then there's a relapse, and they feel better, and then there's a relapse. And so it's like there's a push and pull. Yeah. So it's also not just a kind of state where it's just suddenly achieved. And that's also something that I think is important to understand in terms of success. It's not a notion in homeopathic terms where everything is just suddenly better or suddenly gone. Yeah. It's not a single moment that can be isolated or identified or pointed out, because I think that's also kind of a conditioning that we have, where the understanding of success is that something is achieved. Yeah. I have it. It's mine. I possess it. Yeah. But health, when we're talking about health and disease, it's not something that we can simply possess. Like I can possess this cup, or I can possess, a certain amount of money in the bank or whatever. Right. And so it's not a material, quantifiable notion of success in that sense too. Success means being able to gradually adapt out of the state of delusion into a healthier state where my conditions to feel okay, my conditions to be okay, are gradually increased, so that the experience, this deeply unconscious experience, the vital experience of as if I'm being chased by a lion, gradually reduces. Yeah, so the situations and circumstances that previously would have put me into that state, now I'm able to tolerate them, at least a little bit better. Yeah, and then after 6 months, a little bit better, and then after a year, they're not a problem anymore, right? So also the notion of success is not just something that can be grasped and held onto as if it's a possession. Yeah, and I think that many ways in which we are conditioned to think about health is basically that. It's, I want these symptoms gone. That means success. That means the treatment is successful, right? But oftentimes the symptoms will only go away once that deeper vital sensation is actually adequately dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once the reason for the symptom is cleared up.
I mean, you could also use the analogy of cutting a weed just at the ground level. It's going to grow back, and it's going to keep growing back unless you pull out the root.
Yes. Yeah. But we can extend the analogy. So pulling out the root, it's like not just one root, but let's think of a plant like Japanese knotweed. I think it is a problem in England.
Yes, it is.
It's a problem here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Japanese knotweed, it's a big problem because if you get it early, yeah, actually it's somewhat manageable unless you break off a little piece. But then that piece will spread and continue spreading. But once it becomes established, which, if we use the analogy of disease, yeah, once it becomes deeply established in the organism, it's like you pull out the root here, and then you realize that it spreads all the way over there, and you see another one popping up, and you have to rip out that one. Yeah, so the whole process can take some work, some careful attention, and care in terms of what it is that you're doing. Yeah, so it's usually not so simple as just pulling up one root.
Right.
Usually it's a rhizome.
Yeah.
and you have to deal with this whole rhizome underneath the earth.
So the moral of the story is don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger, because it's I think that's an image that I got from my teacher whose name is Anna Vervarka. She's a Belgian homeopath, and she wrote an article called "Metaphor is All We Have." And so the listeners could consult that article as well, and I'll send you a link to it.
Please do. I'd love to read that too.
Yeah.
Well, look, Victor, because this is part of a bigger series that's sort of coming together about the idea of success in our modern mainstream society.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, from a homeopathic point of view, how do different remedy types define or approach success?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah. I mean, so, we can use a kind of an archetypal example of aurum metallicum, gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So aurum metallicum, when you look at it at the periodic table, it's basically at just after the summit. Yeah. So it's a state of a person who has achieved success, but there is either an actual threat or a sense of a threat that the success is going to be completely taken away. Yeah. So it's like I have achieved, but the success that I've achieved is now I know, or I feel that it's going to be taken out from under my feet. Yeah. And so the kind of archetypal image of aurum metallicum is basically, a very, very successful business person whose stock portfolio just suddenly crashes and they become suicidal. Aurum is a very strongly suicidal syphilitic, we call it syphilitic type of remedy, where their reaction is extreme in that sense. So the stock profile is destroyed and they jump off of a building and want to kill themselves. Either they do that in reality, or they strongly are compelled to do that. Yeah. So that's one. Yeah, that's one pattern. If you were to look at different, say, animal cases, yeah, of course, aurum is an element. But if you look at animal cases, often the success in the person's mind is having to do with being dominant, being the dominant personality. Yeah, especially if you're talking about predatory animals, then the threat is basically that of I'm going to be killed. Yeah, if I'm not the strongest, I'm going to be killed. And of course, this is the delusion, right? And I'm speaking in general terms about predatory animals. But that's the basic experience of a predatory animal. I have to ensure that I'm the strongest, otherwise I'm going to be taken out myself. Yeah, and so something will come up in the context of the consultation where that is being expressed at some level. Yeah, and so success means ensuring that I remain the strongest in whatever context that exists, ensuring that I'm the one who's in control of my surroundings. Because if I'm not, then I'm going to be taken out. Yeah.
And so, how would you find balance, or how would you alleviate those symptoms for such a patient?
By finding the correct remedy. Yeah.
Right. So as an example, if he or she was having such feelings about success, how would you then find the right remedy for that person? Or he was struggling with this in his life right now.
Yeah. Well, that's where the case taking comes in. Yeah. Okay. The case taking comes in as a technique of being able to understand the nuances of that. Yeah, because even once we're able to, say, get to the point where we know that it's a predatory animal, and we know that it's, say, a mammal, well, is it say, a bear, or is it a lion? Yeah. And those animals have different expressions as they express themselves in a human being. Yeah. So there is also, but also success, I think it's trying to understand success in the sense of not only the elimination of this eventually, say the person gets better, the symptoms go away, but like, let's take the lion as an example, right? So the lion, I was having a discussion with the colleague last week, and he was talking to me about how actually in certain cosmologies, there's a kind of continuity, spiritual continuity, from the sun to the eagle to the lion. Yeah. And that quality of lion, when it's in a healthy state, is a powerful expression of a leader. Yeah. And some people are naturally in that state, right? But it depends in which form it's coming up, in which form it's being expressed. Is it the unhealthy pathological state of lion, or is it the healthy state? Because if it's the unhealthy state, then we're going to have a person who can be very violent, very antagonistic, very aggressive, a bully. Yeah, basically bullying other people. And they know that they can. And they're not scared because they know that they have the capacity to do that, and that they're not going to be bothered by other people. And they use that in a way because they're in an unhealthy state of lion. Yeah. But the healthy state of lion is one where that capacity, that strength, is used actually for the betterment, not only of their own material well-being, for example, but actually is used in a constructive way, where that quality of leadership is then taken on, where they become a beacon of light and grace for their family, their community, for the people who they're surrounded by. Yeah. And that is literally a beacon of light, because the lion is a continuation of that same solar power, that same cosmic power, right? And that's the healthy state, where that capacity, that ability, is able to actually shine through, rather than it being something that is used to oppress other people. So, right? It's used for the liberation of oneself, of one's own capacities, and the liberation of one's fellow human beings.
So keeping it in this healthy bandwidth or healthy balance, rather than coming out like so.
Yeah, and allowing a person to actually find out what that is, right? Because of all kinds of situations and circumstances that we find ourselves in life, certain traumas and whatever, the trauma doesn't create the state. I mean, we talked about this before, right? The person is born in this state as lion. yeah, or whatever their remedy state is. They're born with that state, and arguably it even continues from one lifetime to the next unless it's properly dealt with.
Yeah, so I just want to ask on that because I've like in the last couple of weeks, I've had a few days where I've been quite tired, and I've noticed that I've come off this balance, and certain old patterns have shown themselves, and it's just from being tired. So can it be as simple as a good night's sleep that can bring you back to balance and out of those negative nuances?
If the organism is already sufficiently regulated, yeah, then yes. But it depends. It depends where on the spectrum of health and disease a person is. Yeah, of course, there's no person that exists that's perfectly healthy. Yeah, where there's no imbalance. But then there are people that are more in a balanced state and people that are very far from a balanced state. So if you're far from a balanced state, then doing things like, you know, a good sleep and proper hygiene and good nutrition and these kinds of things, of course, they're very important and you need to be doing them. But oftentimes those things are not enough, especially given the kinds of the kind of world we exist in today. So, oftentimes hygienic measures are insufficient to be able to get a person to that state where, if we use this example of the lion and the leadership qualities of the lion person, to be able to get to that point where you have that innate balance in yourself where those qualities have a positive expression. Yeah, where your health actually is not only something that, and this is, I think, another point to mention, and this is something that Rudolf Steiner spoke about. He spoke about what he called the courage to heal. Yeah, and I think it's appropriate, especially in the context of thinking of the lion, because it does have this theme of courage, of courageousness. But in general, I mean, Steiner was speaking to physicians, and he spoke about a fundamental prerequisite of healing as courage. And what he meant by that is not only the courage of the physician, but actually also the courage of the patient, not only to get better, but so that they use that healing impulse that they have innately within themselves. They're able to tap into that in such a way that their healing becomes a blessing for the rest of humanity. That's what the courage to heal means. That my capacity to exist, my capacity to exist becomes actually something that is of benefit for others. Yeah, that's when a person is in a truly healthy state. Then there is that emanation of grace. Yeah, let's call it grace, or of beatitude. Yeah, that comes from them, and that naturally is of benefit to other people as well. And so that's kind of the highest ideal of success, as Steiner describes it in terms of the healing process, the courage to heal. Yeah,
and then
and
that's
that
a
courage
gift
needs.
back.
Yeah,
That's a gift back to the patient.
Yeah, it's a gift back to the patient, and it extends out to other people as well. Yeah, but that's what it means. I mean, my healing is never solely my own. Yeah, that's also something to understand, because you see that there is very much this understanding in this world that we live in now, where everything is reduced to the individual. Everything is reduced to me, my problem, my disease. Yeah, all of these things become self-referential. But when we understand at a deeper level, these are actually problems that, yes, I am experiencing it. But when you really understand at the fundamental level of what's going on, you see that there is a deep connection to other people. There's a deep connection to one's ancestry. There's a deep connection to one's environment. There's a deep connection to the natural world in terms of what is actually going on here. It's not just something that is isolated and confined. I mean, I'm the locus of it, but the locus is not the totality. Yeah, it's just where it's finding an expression, but the other parts that lead to that expression coming up also need to be fundamentally addressed. And that means success, when you can understand and grasp that totality and actually see where the person becomes healthier, they become stronger, and things start to change around them, because it's like a field, right? When a person gets healthier, then the field pattern that they exist in begins to shift and change. So this idea of inner and outer also with the homeopathic remedy, it becomes blurred. Yeah. What is actually an inner experience versus an outer experience? Because there are so many situations in which, um, say, a person feels like something is blocked. I can't achieve this thing that I want to achieve. Yeah. And then they take a good remedy, and then all of a sudden, all of the things that they were blaming on this and that and this and that, which were factors. Yeah. Like, I know I had a case where there was a patient that was trying to sell her house, and she couldn't decide about it. Should I sell the house and move somewhere else, or should I stay here? Should I move? Should I stay here? Should I move? Should I stay here? Yeah, that was the fundamental issue in the case. And the remedy that this patient was given was Luna, which was basically radiation from the moon. And Luna, one of the strong characteristics of the remedy is very strong indecision. Yeah. And this woman had put up her house on the market before, and people were coming in with low offers, and they were kind of playing around and not being so serious. She took the remedy, and then very shortly after, she decided, yes, I do want to sell the house. I want to move somewhere else. The right buyers came in very quickly, and everything was resolved. So how do you explain that?
Victor, yeah, I was just going to ask, is that remedy a remedy that anybody can take, just like
No.
over-the-counter sort of remedy?
No. No. It has to
I do
fit.
like
It
to.
has to.
Okay, but if they took it just as an experiment, it's not going to do any
I
harm
mean,
if it.
well, it's not necessarily going to do any harm. I mean, you might notice nothing,
Uh-huh.
or you might experience an aggravation, or you might notice some benefit from the remedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the this patient actually, this was the starting prescription. I did eventually move this patient to another remedy as the case became clear. But there are some situations in which there's a situational remedy. Yeah. So Luna didn't end up being her constitutional prescription, but for that situation, for that problem that she was stuck in, it was very significant. And you see that it actually shifted things. It shifted both, and that's the thing. Where's the border here between what was going on internally in the patient and the external circumstances that she found herself in? The remedy was able to address both. So the idea of where my internal world begins and the external world begins becomes something that's very interesting to look at with a homeopathic treatment, because you start to see, when you have a good remedy, that these things start to change. It's not just something that happens inside of me.
No, because it's also a mirror. We're basically expressing a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also, that's also, I think, an important thing to understand. And that takes some time, and it does take courage to be able to want to do that. There are some situations and some patients that get afraid when this starts to happen, because for whatever reason, I mean, there are many people who basically have become conditioned to identify with their illness.
Yes.
Because their illness gives them certain things. It gives them, say, care. It gives them attention. It gives them, whatever, right? And it is the basic way in which they feel comfortable in the world, is having this illness as part of their identity. And it's kind of a slippery slope, because on the one hand, a practitioner can say, well, this patient is not getting better because they're too strongly identified with their illness, and I don't want to get over it, right? So it's easy to say that, a difficult case you can't solve. But of course, there are situations where that is the reality, where a person is very strongly identified in a kind of almost survival kind of pattern with their illness. But then, and it's not only, yeah.
I was just going to ask: would there be a remedy for that?
Well, it's certainly something. It's certainly something to consider, to factor in. I mean, I think it could be almost any remedy state, yeah. Based on the situations that a person has found themselves in their life, yeah. But why? I mean, the question is why? Why does a person feel that like when there's a healing impulse that's brought into the organism, why do they reject it?
Oh, I think
Yeah,
it's
and
fear.
there are yeah, yeah,
Fear
and that's
of
why yeah.
something that the unknown and something new is happening. It's even
Yeah.
like I mean, I can even just say with a yoga posture. If I'm in a yoga
Mhm.
posture like and I feel something shifting, I pull out for the first time, and then I go, oh, okay, then I'm going to go back in. It's just something new, and it's like, whoa, hold on a second, I don't understand this new space.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good analogy, and that's why I really like this idea of the courage to heal, but that Steiner puts forward. It's very important because otherwise, we can become discouraged also because this kind of process does often take time, yeah,
Mm.
and dedication. The courage is an important piece, and and people have good reasons to identify and hold on to their illness because it's a coping mechanism. It's a
Mm.
coping strategy.
I suppose
Yeah,
that's what a good homeopath is there to do, is to support the patient through such a transition.
that's right.
And
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, and to help understand things as they come up.
mm,
Yeah. So even if uh, you find the correct remedy for the person, and you understand and you tell them, well, this remedy I'm going to have you stay on for a considerable period of time. So I mean, I'm not going to change the remedy. The remedy is fixed. So some patients will think, well, why do I keep coming back? Because it's not just you and the remedy. Because also my consciousness in prescribing the remedy is also there, yeah. And my relationship to the remedy is also a factor.
that was very important. Let's just go back to that. Sorry, everyone, I got cut off and now I'm back. And we're going back to this very important point that Victor was making. Do
Yeah,
you
so
remember
the,
where
the
we
point
were?
was basically yeah, the point was basically that it's not just a question of the relationship between the patient and the remedy. Yeah, it's more than that. It's a relation between the practitioner and the patient. Yeah, it's a relationship between the practitioner and the remedy prescribed, and a relationship between the patient and the remedy prescribed. So those are important factors, and if those are not maintained and sustained, then the possibility of the treatment really progressing becomes less. And one thing that I'll say too is that it's also very important for patients to also be reminded of the changes that have taken place, because often what will happen is somebody say comes in with, and it could be even something that is very severe, like a patient has had terrible migraines for 20 years, and they take a remedy, and then you do a follow-up after 6 weeks, and the migraines are not bothering them anymore. And and, and those kinds of things can happen. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the success is not being the elimination of symptoms, but sometimes there are cases where that does happen. Yeah, and it's of course it's welcomed. Yeah, we don't want to keep the symptoms indefinitely, but in situations where this does happen, a patient can come back and they're like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And they say, "Oh, I don't know, not much has changed." And then you ask them, say, "Well, tell me about the migraines." They're like, "Oh, well, actually, yeah, I've only had one the past 6 weeks, whereas before they were having them every day, right?"
That's
And
funny, yeah.
but that's something very interesting, where um, it's like the organism doesn't hold on to that memory
Mm.
because it doesn't have a need to hold on to it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I didn't think
why
of it
would
that
it?
way. Yeah, I didn't think of it
Yeah.
like that. But so, Victor,
Yeah.
just because you mentioned the relationship between the homeopath and the patient, the homeopath and the remedy, so what would you say that the homeopath's role is to within this paradigm, or
It's to
how?
perceive
Mhm.
to perceive the essence of what needs to be cured in the case, and then to gradually bring the patient to an understanding of that themselves. Yeah.
And
And it comes.
how does the homeopath uh, not interfere?
Well, that's the task, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, emphasized the importance of being an unprejudiced observer.
Mm.
Yeah. And so it means not moralizing the case. So I mean, of course, you see patients who have very different say, religious, spiritual beliefs, who have very different political views, and you don't get into an argument with them about that. There's no point.
Because also I think that one of the obstructions to healing or getting over something is accepting something about the self. Rather than accept something, they will deflect or even accuse the other person as a way of deflection.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a question of awareness. Yeah, and basically everything comes down to awareness. Yeah, because where we direct our attention, there things begin to develop. And a good treatment allows us to actually reclaim our capacity for awareness, because it's no longer being conditioned by this feeling of I'm being chased by a lion. Yeah. And so that reconditioning starts to take place. And it's an awareness also of oneself, and that requires also courage. But there's a quote by the philosopher Theodor Adorno, and he was talking about happiness, which, I guess in some ways can be equated with success in some people's minds. But his definition of happiness, he said, to be happy is to be able to become aware of oneself without fear. Yeah. And I think that's probably the best definition of happiness that I've come across. And I think it's also a reasonable definition of success too, to be able to, in whatever one's undertaking is, to be able to become aware of oneself in this undertaking, in the process that one is in, without fear conditioning one's way of acting and being.
Okay, so then, Victor, why don't I ask you this question? What is success for Victor?
Yeah. I think that is what I just said. I think it is relevant to my own understanding of success, which is basically being able to fulfill what I feel is my role on this earth, in this life, without being conditioned by fear or doubt or worry or apprehension. Yeah, to be able to act in that capacity without falling prey to those negative thought forms.
And so if you had to put success in one word, what word would you choose?
It's a good question. I would say the first word that comes to mind is revelation. Yeah, revelation, meaning a clear vision, a clear insight into the situation or the moment or the task at hand. Yeah, revelation, I think, is a word that encapsulates that.
For you,
yeah, where there's it's like a clear light, and when you have that, then you're guided, and you know how to go through whatever it is that you're going through.
And also, I suppose, to have that, you have to get rid of the individual want, desire.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so this brings to mind, I was listening to a lecture by Peter Kingsley, who's a great mystic, and he is a scholar of the so-called pre-Socratic philosophers, the ancient philosophers, especially Parmenides and Empedocles. And I recommend his work very strongly, because he really, I think, is a very, very important thinker, and really helps us to understand also this world that we're living in now. Yeah, he traces back, actually, from his understanding, the origins of this Western world that we exist in. What was it actually born from? But anyways, I was listening to a lecture of his the other night, and I thought to just isolate this passage, and I'll bring it up now. But he's talking about Empedocles, the ancient philosopher, who was actually not only a natural philosopher, but also a healer. And so this line between what in the ancient world was considered natural philosophy and what was considered medicine, they were blurred. Yeah. And I think in homeopathy, I think the same is true. But there were Hippocratic physicians of the time who were very critical of Empedocles, because he was essentially a magician. Yeah. And the magic was there in his medical work and in his philosophical work, a magician or a shaman, you could say. Yeah. And basically, the Hippocratic thinkers were very indignant against Empedocles, because Empedocles basically said you can do certain things to help a human being. Say they get burnt, you can help the burn. They break a bone, you can mend the bone. But what Empedocles said is that to really heal a human being means knowing what a human being is from the beginning, which is to say, coming to that point where the human being is actually divine and hasn't forgotten that. Yeah, what we are from the beginning, and that is really the crux of the matter. And it is, I mean, it's kind of like the Zen koan, knowing your face before you were born. It's a similar thing, knowing what we are from the beginning. And for Empedocles, and for that tradition of healing that he was a representative of, that was the focus. That was the focus. And he was dismissed by the Hippocratic physicians as being, a quack. Or, that's a modern phrase, but, homeopaths are called quacks today because fundamentally, I think my understanding of homeopathy, when I heard that, I said, yes, that is, when I think of really, really successful cases in homeopathy, that awareness comes through to the patient, bringing them to the point where they recognize their own divinity.
Yeah, yeah. And those who are seen as quacks are usually 150, 200 years before their time.
Yeah, if not more.
If not more, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Victor, thank you so much for helping us see that success does not have to mean striving. And thank you again for joining me on this program and sharing your views on homeopathy in general and success for this time around.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Victor. And I'm sure we'll see you on this program again. And to all of you who are tuning in, I hope this has given you something to think about, and stay curious. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Bye for now.